Hey everybody, this is Brad Bruce and I'm here with
Jase Marsiglia.
And you're listening to the 5195 podcast. This is episode 4.
Yep.
Last few were kind of...
The voyage home.
Yeah.
The final chapter.
Yeah. It was crazy. Excuse my voice, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a little hoarse today.
Yeah, allergy season kicking up.
Yeah, here in wonderful SoCal. I woke up and my voice was actually gone when I woke up this morning. It was like gone, and I was so stressed out because I was like, oh my God, we got to record tonight. How the fuck am I going to do this?
You sound all right. I don't even think you sound that hoarse.
I hope not. But I'm also like really trying to talk through it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it. I don't think it sounds like
it. Good. So... But anyways, I mean, yeah, I think we were really kind of heavy. And I know I had quickly mentioned that Felissa had brought garlic and gunpowder to me.
Yes. And by that point, we had already all shot Maternal Instincts.
Yeah.
That was just kind of floating in the ether. I don't think it had found a home. And I had flown back home. And garlic and gunpowder was what, the following year or 2 years? Because I was out here in 16 to shoot Maternal.
It had to be.
Yeah. So you were kind of able to cobble together your team and more. Because this was a substantially bigger movie than what we did. Yeah. We shot ours, in a nutshell, literally within 48 hours. Like a sleepless 48 hours. We just banged it out.
Right.
So I went home. To me, that was the experience of a lifetime. I've never been on a set. Got to see everyone work. I got to see Felissa just fucking bring it. It was awesome. Got to watch effects. So that was my experience. And I went home on kind of a high and was kind of like, when can we hang next? And that's when garlic came your way.
Yeah. Lucky me.
Yeah. Now, if you guys have noticed over the last 3 shows, there's been an almost eerie parallel between Brad and I's paths. We were both, I would say, were we both on kind of a high after Maternal?
Yo, definitely.
Because I know it's a little more old hat for you. You had done a few movies. This was my first. This was the first time anything, well, I shouldn't say the first time anything I'd written had been made. I had done a movie for, I think his name's Robert Massetti.
Okay. He
had the Florida convention. I forget. But he had a film festival. And he had me do, this is long before Maternal or anything, before we started talking. He had seen some talent in my columns in this, I believe, the Scream Sirens magazine. And he goes, we're going to do Lifetime Achievement Awards for Clive Barker and Robert Englund. And he goes, I would love for you to write the speech to get him up there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was like, so you want me to do kind of a quick, all-encompassing career thing? Yeah, I looked at it almost like the Oscar type of thing for horror. So I wrote those 2 things for him, and he saw enough talent that he asked me to write something called Creepy Crawly. And it was about a weird parasitic creature that was fucking up cattle on someone's farm. And that was basically the story he gave me, and I went from there. And we did a short. It was shot. He shot it 2 different ways. I think he did a Spanish version. And that was cool. That was neat to see. But Maternal Instincts was like, this one's serious. This one's cool. This isn't like a 5-minute short. This thing's, what was it, about 20?
Yeah,
20
easily,
minutes.
Yeah.
More anthology-ish. So that was, even though I had stuff made, which was cool, this was the first time I got to work. Really work as if this is like boots on the ground filmmaking. And it was kind of guerrilla. We were just kind of running, gunning.
Yeah.
And so I went home kind of like, great. I achieved my goal. Now we can only go upward from here. Brad, you call me whenever you want, man. We'll collab. We'll do whatever. So garlic came your way, and I went home and sort of put pen to paper again so that I'd have something bigger and cooler for us to do next. Yeah. Because I think that was what we agreed on. We're like, we can do a short. Let's do a movie. A movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do this, man. So I went home and kind of rode that high while I was hammering out some new material. And without naming names or getting into anything too substantial, one of the things that we talked about, especially near the end of the last episode, was frustrations. Okay? It's no mystery to us at this point how things can just turn south. How the rug can be pulled out from under you at any old time.
Yeah.
And it can. I mean, even if you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, there's going to be high highs and low lows. Sometimes the low low is nothing at all.
Yeah.
Well, I had hooked up with a few other producers, a few other directors, and a couple of things got off the ground, but I was kind of left in the dust, in my opinion, which was probably more like the usual writer thing. Thanks for this. Cool. See you later. And I didn't make any money off of anything. I was never paid for anything. I kind of came to you for advice. I'm like, dude, this kind of sucks. I was just like, I feel like I'm not going anywhere, and everybody's kind of given me this, you should do it for the exposure. The exposure, it'll get you out there. And I'm like, cool. By this point, I'd been exposed, quote unquote, probably close to 10 years. I was like, I'm serious about this. I want this to be a job, a actual monetary job. You and your wife, Kimmy, you both said, if you're good at something, and you clearly are, you need to be paid for it. And this is kind of the lesson. If someone is asking you to do shit for free for the exposure, you got to know when to just say, no, I'm better than that. My time is money, and I am good at what I do, and just have the confidence in your work to say, if you're going to pay me, cool.
Yeah.
Now, just be a hired gun. If you want me to write a script, pay me for it. That attitude. And I didn't go into it like a dick. I wasn't like, yeah, fuck you, pay me. It wasn't like that. I did it very diplomatically. I did it like a, employer-employee transaction. And I said, what's the gig pay? And they were like, nothing. It's the exposure. And that was the theme, the common theme. And I finally said, well, thank you, but I'm kind of holding out for something else, if that's cool. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, because I was like, I've written some cool stuff, and I've sent it out to here, there, and everywhere. And, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I never really see anything out of it. And, IMDb credits are only so good.
Do you have an IMDb?
I do, yeah. And I've pretty much everything I've done has been on there. But it was just one of those deals where I'm like, exposure's great, but, you can only walk past the same fish tank and see the same fish every day. Yeah. It's just not doing anything. Yeah. So I took your advice, and I was kind of like, I tried to show some backbone. I figured I'd worked my way into the business enough that I could confidently plant my feet and say, listen, I'm good at what I do. Everyone who comes to me obviously sees something there that's worth their while. Why is everyone else making money and I'm just sitting here? And it's not greed. It's not vanity. It's just, if I'm part of this, what is there to show for it at this point? And again, the only show for it was like an IMDb credit, which is kind of cool at first. Hey, I'm on IMDb, But after a while, you're like, I'm not even working for peanuts. I'm not working for shit. Penis, oh. Yeah. I'm not working for that smooth penis. So I felt justified in telling people, for a fee,
but there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and that's the game. You also,
because no offense to these people, odds are they're not working for free.
No, they're not. Everyone got something out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a few people who got awards based on my shit,
Yeah.
And I certain people, again, I'm not going to name names or anything, and I'm still friends with these people, but I kind of had to let them know, I'm like, okay, we've had our fun. Let's get serious. And the calls stop.
Of course. Once the line is drawn in the sand, then reality will set in.
Yes. And that's when it kind of hit me that this wasn't about friendship. This isn't, what's the old saying? It's showbiz, not show friends. That whole thing. It was very evident at that point when things dried up that I was only as good as the free shit I was willing to give them. And that was a hard thing to grapple with, because not that I'm naive, I know I'm new to this, but at the same time, when you have a rapport with people and you've talked to them for years, you start thinking they've got your back. And out of 5 or 6 different people I've been in contact with and worked with, maybe you and one other person have been like, I got your back. And we'll pay you for whatever. It's a job. They treated it like a job, as opposed to like, can you build the set at our high school musical?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically is what it boiled down to. So that high that I was on after maternal instincts really dissipated. And once the phone stopped ringing and the texts stopped coming in, and it was kind of like, wow, I really did just kind of get used. And it bummed me out. And I kind of stopped even talking to the people who did kind of pay me for my time and did take a chance on me, because I was kind of like, well, that's probably a means to an end too. Who knows when the other shoe's going to drop. And after a while, I pushed away from the table and I said, this isn't worth it, because I'm just like, I'm not going to do this for free. No one seems to want to pay me. And whatever goodwill there was in hearing people that I respected telling me, you've got something, kid, didn't really feel like a win anymore. And I got very disenchanted with the whole thing. So while I was back in Michigan, just sort of resigning myself to the idea that I had my 5 seconds, or 5 minutes, whatever the term is. And that's probably the highest peak I'm going to hit, which isn't a bad peak. I worked with Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp, something I'd watched as a kid. This was no slouch project. This was someone I knew and was a fan of, willing to take a chance on me.
Yeah.
And you as well, just somebody who didn't know me from anybody.
Right.
Just happened to connect with the material. To me, it was a big deal, but it was like, that's the Everest. You're done.
Right.
You're done, pal.
I mean, I can see that. I definitely can. I don't know if you remember me telling you or not when I was like really encouraging you to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me saying like, now just be prepared for what comes next.
Oh yeah. You were basically like, you're about to find out who your friends are. And I was like, okay. And I braced myself for it. And it didn't really hurt when the true colors were shown. It was kind of like, wow, yeah, Brad was right. That sucks. So you just kind of swipe that number off your phone and go about your day. So I wasn't hurt by it. I wasn't really depressed. I didn't go into a real big depression about it. But the scary thing is, and if you're listening and you've felt this way, take this to heart. I always say go with your gut. Your gut will tell you when something feels right. It's the same thing as if you're writing and you get on that roll where you're just like, this is flowing out of me. This feels good. I'm on the right path. It's a similar feeling. When I decided this wasn't for me anymore, it felt right. And that was dreadful because it didn't hurt me anymore to go, I'm not a writer. And there was a long period where I'm not a writer filled me with panic or pain, because it was like, I'm giving up on something I love and it hurts. It hurts a lot. Instead, this time it was like, I give up and I'm kind of okay with it. And that kind of scared me a little bit, but it was like, again, I felt it in my gut and was like, I'm going to go with my gut. This feels right. And I think that's it.
And a lot of this was happening while I was here doing the garlic thing.
Yeah.
You were kind of having these self battles.
I was. And, because you had your project. I had a few of mine. It's not that we weren't still working. In fact, that's probably the longest stretch we went where we weren't really talking because we both had our heads in different areas. But after so many projects that were successful for other people but me, I was like...
That you were attached to.
That I was attached to. Where I was just like, cool, here's what I gave you. And the accolades rolled in for everyone else. And I was just kind of like, wow, not even a nod? I didn't expect any awards or anything, but it was like,
It's a tough pill.
It is. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'll just wait here at the train station while you guys take off. Bye.
Yeah.
No problem. I bought you guys your tickets.
Yeah. I had no idea.
I didn't really.
No, you didn't. Because even if we were, because while Garlic came to town, we were checking in. You were like, hey, how's it going? And I would give you updates and things like that. But you were so not vocal about what you were doing, what you're going through.
Well, there's a part of me that was like, I'm glad that we're just checking in on each other as friends, because you and I are close. We're like brothers.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be about work. And I certainly didn't want to be the guy from Michigan who's like, our friendship's predicated on what we're doing next. It was never like that.
I had those.
Sure. And I'm sure we're still going to have some.
Of course.
It's going to happen over and over. But I was happy just checking in with you and being like, oh man, how's things going out there? Oh, you're working with Jimmy Duvall. Oh,
Yeah.
Felissa's back in the mix. It was just cool to check in a familial kind of way. But I wasn't letting you know what I was going through because I didn't want to be the guy who was just like, oh God, this writer, the usual, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the Woody Allen, there's a term for his type of comedy.
Stupid?
I wanted to say eccentric, but that's not the word I'm looking for. It's like him and Jerry Seinfeld. They have that type of comedy. But it was kind of how I felt, where it was like, I'm going to sound like a whiner.
Okay.
So I'm not going to whine to him, even though for you, it would really just be talking shop.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't feel like shop. It felt like, Brad, help me out here. Mm-hmm. Pull me out of this funk.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't brought up that way. I wasn't brought up to bitch.
Right.
So I just kind of checked in with you. I was happy that you were getting stuff. I was happy that you were hanging out and working with people that I admire. I'm like, oh man, it's fucking awesome. I'm so glad, And, but I was at home just kind of like, I'm a banker.
You know what's crazy about that is that, like, there were a few occasions during pre-production on Garlic that I was like, I wonder if you should come out for this.
Oh, for Garlic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, it was, Felissa told me about it. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, oh, we're working with a company. They did Death House.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't seen at the time.
No.
But I was very familiar with the original script that Gunner wrote.
I'd heard about it. Not even through you. This was something that was all over the horror sites.
Prior to it being made or
prior to...
Yeah, just Gunner's script.
It was going to be the Expendables of horror films. Mm-hmm. And I was like, cool. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And that's what his script was.
Right.
I was like very excited
for
this movie. And then when I found out that it was actually being made, obviously, sadly, after Gunner passed, I was like, well, hopefully it's in the hands of people that are going to do it justice.
Right.
And really give that like tip of the hat to Gunner, a good send-off for everything he's contributed to this genre.
Right. I didn't even think that far ahead. When he died, I thought it was dead in the water.
Oh, really?
I really did. I didn't think...
So you didn't know that it had been picked up and was going into production?
No, I had no idea that it was going to change hands or anyone was going to be involved anymore. I thought once Gunner died, it died with him.
Okay.
So I kind of stopped paying attention to the scuttlebutt on Death House. But I remember you telling me the people behind this Death House movie. I'm like, oh, Death House. I'm thinking, oh, the Dead Project.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, they moved on and they're doing Garlic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was all I knew about it at the time, and just kind of took it as, well, we've moved on and Brad's part of this move on. You know what I mean? So I was happy. I was happy for you, man. I was like, cool.
Yeah. When, again, like I said, she brought it to me. She brought Garlic to me and was like, we'd like to shoot it at your studio. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll talk to the guys and, the other producers and owners, and we'll see. That time I sort of stepped away and was working on a couple of projects in LA. Yeah. So I wasn't even here.
Is there a full moon?
Stick to the road.
I know. Stay to the road. Don't walk through the moors.
It was awesome.
The Baskervilles have been taken care of.
Yeah. So, but no, like what I was saying was like I wasn't even at my studio.
Okay. Because you were in town.
I was up in LA. I was working on some stuff, and my partners were handling the studio. Mm-hmm. And so it was like real early in pre-production on Garlic. So I was like tagged in these emails just so I could be kept in the loop.
Sure.
Like from their producers, the director, so I would like read them just to kind of stay fresh with it.
Sure.
And then like, sometimes if someone would reach out to me privately, ask a couple questions, I would give answers. But then it really started like coming together. We were pretty much ready now. A lot of them came up and we started like location scouting, and we had a checklist of everything we needed, and like I was meeting everyone, and I'm just going to be honest, man, this business is not all fun and excitement.
No, it's kind of, let's say you work at a retail store, an office building, you're a cubicle guy, whatever. Yeah. You know how your job might be boring, but you're good at it, and then there's people at your job that you just want to fucking strangle. The movie business isn't much different. In fact, it's probably more deceptive. Fake. Fake is probably the biggest thing. But it's a job like any other where on the outside you get the sizzle reel.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not here working on movies is like, that has got to be the coolest fucking thing. It's got to be a party all the time. No, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of sleepless nights. And to top it off, Bob in accounting that you just want to fucking stab in the face. Well, Bob exists here too. He's got a different purpose, but you're going to be annoyed. You're going to be tested. There's going to be deadlines that people are breathing down your neck about. So, yeah, it's cool. If it's something you really want to do, a lot of that stuff won't bother you as much. But if you're not prepared, you're going to realize real quick that movie making is still just a job. It's work and all the politics that go with it. You know, just as long as you bear that in mind, if you're a fledgling coming up, you know, and you're wanting to get into this, hopefully you don't think that it's just, this is the other side of the rainbow. It's not. It's Skid Row.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very much, once the veil has been pulled away, yeah, there is a lot of glamour. Yeah, there's a lot of laughs. And yeah, I've made some lifelong friends. You know, I'm sitting across from them right now. But there's always going to be days where you're ready to slam that fucking phone down because you're so pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be days where you have been so excited that something was going to take off and then it just... It goes down like a Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just... You got to be prepared for that. I think so many people try to get into this industry and think it's my ticket. This is my lottery ticket. And it's so not. I mean, you have just as much chance of winning the lottery as you do striking out here if that's all you think this is. The people who really are passionate about it know the stakes, they know the work, and they plug through and they succeed. So yeah, this episode is shaping up to be that what the things we're going to tell you is reality.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a hard one. So
it really is.
You know, just take what we say with take it to heart. We're not going to lie to you. We're not going to sugarcoat. But this was kind of the beginning of another end. You know, even though things never really launched, nothing ever really made it into the sky.
Yeah.
Things were about to come down pretty hard.
For both of us.
For both of us.
And it's like, you know, when people started showing up after a couple weekends of location scouting, and I started meeting more people, I was like almost instantly like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
I don't like you. Like, you know, it literally was, wow, you really are a terrible person.
Yeah.
You know, but I also wasn't a stranger to that.
No.
But now it was in my backyard.
Literally.
Yeah. You know, so I'm like, okay, I just got to like kind of refocus and kind of just like make sure all these people's needs are met for this project and get it done and move on. You know, and I had issues with, and here's the thing, I rarely have issues with crew.
Okay.
It's always above the line people.
Sure.
And, you know,
to be fair, it's their job to breathe down your neck.
It is, but case in point, there's about 60 to 100 people bringing in gear. We have, you know, lighting department, we have sound, we have camera, you know, they're setting up crafty. It's funny because, like, obviously, like, I don't look the part as, like, a filmmaker or director or whatever it is, you know, because I'm walking around the studio in, like, sneakers and camo shorts and a hoodie.
Yeah.
And a backwards hat. And I'm walking in there, and there's this guy, this, like, suit guy, and he stops me with a hand on my shoulder, and not aggressive, but a pullback. And he's like, hey, there's no toilet paper in there, okay? And I'm like, why don't you put some in? And I walked away.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't find out who he was, nor did he until we were introduced by one of the producers. And the producer grabbed me and was like, oh, I want to introduce you to our investor.
Yeah.
I come walking up, and when he said that, the investor looked at me like, now what?
Yeah.
And then the producer looked at him and goes, oh, and this is the owner of the studio.
Ooh.
Now what?
Yeah.
And we did have a moment after that of like, hey, sorry about that.
Right.
And I was like, man, I really hope this isn't a foretelling of what's to come. Mm-hmm. But it was.
Wow.
And here's the thing. Felissa was producing, but she was acting in it, and she had to don a bunch of prosthetics. So she had a character to develop.
Yeah.
So she's like juggling jobs.
Sure.
She's busting her ass.
Yeah.
There was shit going on that she didn't know about. There were people on set that were just treating other crew like complete garbage.
Wow. Yeah.
And they were pulling some like just dirty moves. Like, I mean, there were people that were working in town here in Southern California from up north. Mm-hmm. So they're driving 6+ hours to come down here to work on their movie for maybe $150, $200 a day. Mm-hmm. And they're like cutting their pay in half because they're like, well, you left early last week or bullshit like that.
Ugh.
And I like told him, I was like, they absolutely did not. And I went into the producer's trailer and was just like, hey, you have someone out there who's busting their ass for your project. Mm-hmm. And you have a guy like this who's a complete asshole treating people like shit. The way me and my guys work, mm-hmm. we care about people first.
Yeah.
Before the movie. And anytime it's one of my sets, I make sure that everyone on that set is laughing and having a good time.
If they're not, it is palpable as fuck.
Yes.
It's like dominoes.
And of course, everyone who's out there who, if there are people in the industry that are producers, they'll understand this term of putting out fires.
Sure.
And that's exactly what was going on. And like, there was a bunch of arsonists running around this motherfucking set.
Sure.
Okay. And so like
villagers running around with torches,
And it's like, I think we did this in like 2000, I want to say it was like 2016, 17 when it, was
sure.
when it was released, and I was excited because of the people that were attached that I was going to get to work with.
Yeah.
There was like you had mentioned, there's James Duval's in it.
Yep.
Martin Cove.
Yeah. Marty
Dean
Cove.
McDermott.
Yep.
Michael Madsen. Vivica Fox.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Lainey Kazan. Judy Tenuta.
These are names, man.
Huge. Like, stuff. I mean, it was funny because we shot at my home too.
Yeah.
We're up in my loft that they turned into like hair and makeup.
Sure.
The majority of these people are admiring my collection because I'm nerd first, then filmmaker.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're just like, oh shit, I'm in this, you know.
You're basically upstairs going through the yearbook.
Yeah. I made some really cool friends off of that movie, during the like 20, 30 days, whatever it was. But this is something that I said could probably strike a little nerve with certain people.
Yeah.
Okay. I should have definitely been some sort of a producer on this film. Not to wave a flag of what I did, but it was like I got a list of what they needed, and I pretty much damn near checked every box for them. They needed a restaurant. I got a restaurant.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's winery. They shot there. My friend's record store. My home that they used. We gave because we care, not because we wanted our hands out, like fucking pay us. It was like, look who we are. We can make a movie. You can make a movie. How about we just all make movies?
Right.
And make some good movies.
Right. It should be mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Should be.
It should be. No, I'm going to say this. When I read the script for the first time before anything was ever set in stone, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Just wasn't structured well. Not that I'm a great writer, but I'm a fan of film.
Yeah.
So I appreciate movies because I've seen thousands of them. I'm reading this as a fan.
Well, when you're seasoned enough, even as just a casual film goer, you've seen enough movies that you subconsciously know structure. You subconsciously know how a plot unfolds. And you don't have to be in the industry to know when random ideas are thrown at the wall to see what sticks. I call them kitchen sink movies.
Yeah.
Because there's some movies where I'm just like, this is fucking weird. We're all over the place. I don't even get... And it's just one of those deals. We talked about one yesterday. You and I, when we got out and we were just bullshitting, I brought up Nothing But Trouble. It was Dan Aykroyd's directorial movie, 1991, I believe. And I won't get into the specifics about that movie, but the big thing I took away from hearing interviews with Dan was he was given unlimited funds just about and hugely talented people. I want to say Dean Cundy was even involved in that movie.
Okay.
But basically everybody came to Dan with an idea and Dan was like, sure. And when you say sure to everybody, you get a mess. Because now everyone's idea is in your movie and it loses coherence. And that, you don't have to be a film critic. You don't even have to be a cinephile to watch a movie and kind of go, where's this going? I don't get this movie. You know? And some people will write it off like you're artsy kind of guys who are just like, you just don't get it. No, sometimes shit is just shit. I'm sorry. But when you have a name and people throw wads of cash at you, you can kind of just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It may not do great. Nothing But Trouble is an infamous flop for Warner Brothers. Freddie Got Fingered by Tom Green. Everyone was just like, Tom Green's big. Just let him do what he wants. Look at that movie. And again, I hate being the guy to shit on other people's movies. I'm sure it was a blast to make. But it's just one of those deals where you can watch a movie and kind of go, what was going on? Mm-hmm. What was going on behind the scenes? Who said that was okay? Mm-hmm. Who said this was okay? How does this scene connect to that one?
Yeah.
You know, you can see a mess. And by all accounts, I've not seen Garlic and Gunpowder. I just haven't gotten around to watching it, you know, and that's the thing. I would watch it because you were involved. I'm a supporter.
Well, I will say this. The movie's not awful.
Yeah.
There are a lot of saving grace in the movie.
Sure.
Steve Chase, who was one of the producers, but was also one of the stars, him and James's character, their dynamic was good.
Yeah.
Martin Cove and Dean McDermott, in my opinion, stole the fucking show.
Okay.
I already said, as soon as I started watching those two, I'm like, this is the movie right here. Mm-hmm. These two are the movie. Not to disparage, you know, Steve and Jimmy's characters, but it's like they should have been the B plot.
Okay.
Who these guys were hunting. Even though they were, it was still those other two were the leads.
Fair enough.
And it wasn't bad, but I mean, it would have worked better.
Sure.
The other way, you know, in my opinion. But there was a lot of fun, and I met a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
We got through it, and we made the movie,
Which,
you know.
I know it's a cliche, but the saying is true. No one sets out to make a bad movie.
Fuck no.
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 There's too many high-cost risks
Yeah.
in fucking around. Some people can afford to fuck around.
Yeah.
Most people can't.
Right.
And so when you're on set, whether the movie's good or not, you're working. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to make this work one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it's just something to remember, even if you are watching a movie. That's why I have a hard time shitting on a movie. There's no reason why you can't say this didn't do it for me or that didn't do it for me. But if you've been on a set, you know that there was a camaraderie, there was drama, there was hugs, there were laughs. A lot goes into making a flick.
Those were there.
Right. And that you come away from the experience with those memories that no one else is going to have.
Yeah.
The viewers are not going to have that. They have the finished product.
Yep.
It either tastes like chicken or it don't. We get to look behind the scenes a little bit and kind of go, well, I hope they had fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Again, like you were saying, you know, the movie's kind of scattershot, it sounds like. I can only assume. But again, you were involved. Felissa was involved. Jimmy, who I'm a fan of. I've never met, but I'm a fan of the guy. And Marty Cove. I love Marty Cove. There's enough reason for me to hunt this one down. I want to see it, if only to support my friends. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll see it eventually. It's just, you know...
You definitely should see it.
I
because,
feel,
like I said, there are some really fun moments.
I just feel like I'll watch it with a certain extra amount of info.
Yeah.
It's going to maybe color or not color my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had forged some really good friends. Like the last day of shooting, I was hanging out with Jimmy, and this was literally like the last day. Yeah. Like we're wrapped. And I just told him, I was like, man, you know, this last month was a fucking blast hanging out with you. He was literally like, you know, so like, what's next? What are you doing? What's going on? And I was like, well, I have a script I want to do. Without even hearing a premise, he was like, well, I'm in.
That's a testament to your set.
Yeah.
You know.
And I was just like, wait, for real? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, okay. Literally since 2016, we just been super cool.
Yeah.
They packed up, they rolled out.
Yeah.
We were, trying to do a couple more projects, and I noticed the infrastructure of my team at our studio started to get shaky.
Really?
And I started to notice certain things coming to light. Mm-hmm. Instead of addressing them, I just stuck my head in the sand because I was like, I don't want to do this again. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to forge ahead.
Yeah.
And so we had tried to do a couple other, films, didn't get off the ground. I was proposing, let's do a Halloween short, like we had always tried to do almost every year, like Halloween shorts, and stick them on YouTube, just for fun. Something quick, 1 day of shooting, 1 day of editing, and then done. And I wrote one, and they were all like, this is rough, dude.
You mean...
This is like a rough story. Like
it's heavy.
We shouldn't touch it.
Gotcha.
Essentially I made a lighthearted poke at Sharon Tate and Charles Manson.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I wrote this story about them. it was bad. It was rough, and so it was like everything just kept getting knocked down and knocked down, you know? And I was like, okay, regroup, pulled everyone in. I was just like, James Duvall said that he would do a feature with us, but everyone was just kind of like re-energized.
Sure.
Like, oh, really? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
After announcing that James would do the movie, I was asked, do you have a script? Mm-hmm. I said, yeah. And now this is a script for our first feature as a team.
As a Red 11 team.
Yeah. Now, mind you, I've had written by this time 40 feature films.
Sure.
Short film scripts. Mm-hmm. I was banging out short film scripts like crazy. Like I couldn't, because I was just like trying to hone.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep. And another thing that I've always done was every short film that I've ever written, I wrote the script as a glimpse into a world. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is it all has room to grow into a feature.
Yeah.
Like I've always written, so if something really hit, I'd be able to turn it into a feature. And so this movie that I wrote was like completely different because I'd always done like horror stuff.
Yeah.
This was something completely different. This was the close to a Hitchcock film. Mm-hmm. A huge Hitchcock fan.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this and I didn't tell anyone what I was writing.
Yeah, I remember you were pretty dodgy, cagey with the details. I would, just as a writer, I was like, what are you doing, dude? I want to read it.
Yeah.
But I remember you kept it pretty close to your chest.
Yeah. No, exactly. I did. So, now I feel like we're kind of set as far as like going into production finally after starting this group in like 2011. Mm-hmm. And now we're at like 2017.
Yeah.
And we're ready to make a feature. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably a good place for us to pull the plug on this one.
Sure.
Next time, maybe I'll sound better. I doubt it, but this was an interesting show. There was a lot of ups and downs.
Just like the situations.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where neither of us want to hurt anyone's feelings. Neither of us want to draw any ire. We want to be honest with you guys too. This is the reality of it. And sometimes it's not awesome,
Yeah.
But, if it helps harden you a little bit and prepares you, then all the better.
All right. Well, I guess that's it then.
I want you to be firm.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I guess it was okay talking to you this time.
Yeah, I suppose.
All right, man. Well, I guess I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Until next time.
See you guys.